Hey guys, Brock Shinin here. In today's video, I want to talk about the process of flexing and pivoting and shifting and making changes when you're in your creative process. As most of you know by now, I had announced the launch and publication of my novel Long Play. Had started to introduce different characters and character summaries and different elements of the story and try and build up. And there was a lot that you had not, the vast majority of the plan you had not seen, but I was working towards that with a release. And as I got closer to that, some other things I was working on started to take priority. And what I realized, and I had to really go through, was, okay, if I prioritize these other things, these other projects, it's going to sacrifice my efforts on Long Play. And is it worth it? And at the same time, I was also speaking with my agent and talking about some of the different projects that we have going and whether it's better to shift my attention and shift my priorities over here versus Long Play. So I decided, and it was honestly very difficult for me. I did not want to do it at first. I wanted to just see this through. I feel like, there's the whole thing of like kind of making promises that you don't deliver on and people expecting and building an audience where you're inconsistent. But when you're in this creative journey, and this is really not as, it's about me obviously, but I'm sharing you my personal journey because I want to help and inspire you for how you adjust as a creative. Part of what I had to factor in was, if you remove your ego from the equation, of course you make plans, it's embarrassing, you change plans. But the truth is you cannot be in this business and be tied or tethered to your ego. If you are, it's just going to be failure after failure after failure, and you're going to feel it. So for me, the way I want to approach my creativity is like to try and remove as much as possible, remove my ego from the equation. If it's embarrassing, but it's the right choice, I don't care. I'm not going to be embarrassed. I don't really care if people are laughing out there, because at the end of the day, what I want and what I want for you is that the people that are going to laugh at you when you make a change or make a mistake, they're not your friends, they're not your people, they're not your audience, right? You're not trying to build them, you're not trying to invest in them. So those people need to stay outside. They can laugh all they want. But I guarantee you are already doing more than any of them, right? It takes a lot to do the work that we have to do and make adjustments. But for the people that are laughing about it, making fun of it or whatever, they got nothing on their plate, right? They got nothing better to do. So I don't ever want to use my creative time, my energy to worry about what those people think. I want to worry about the people that care, right? So this is why I'm doing this video, for the people that care, that want to understand what goes into why you would flex and pivot and choose this, but then choose that, or when is it time to make these changes? That's what I want to talk through. And I'm not going to go at length in this, but I want to hit a couple of key points. One is, if you've removed your ego and how, it's embarrassing or whatever, that's like the benchmark. That's the baseline that you have to do. But once you do that, what you have to look at is, as you're putting out materials or as you're creating materials, this isn't always about publishing or distributing or like the timing of that. Sometimes this is just about, hey, I have a screenplay and a novel. Neither seen the light of day, but which should I work on? And sometimes it's market dynamics. Sometimes it's passion. Sometimes it's if you're working with a team like an agent, or you have another book deal, or you have another film deal, or something's lined up. There's expectations or even contractual demands that say, do this. And you'll get torn because as creatives, we have passions, right? They pull us in different directions. I might feel very strongly about this thing I'm working on over here, but I might, I don't ever really hit writer's block, because the truth is I have multiple projects going at any given time. So if I'm blocked on one, I'm never blocked on another. So for me, part of my process is if I hit a block, I'll just switch over here. And once I start reading a few pages and I get back into characters and story and all the speeds and elements of that story, I'll instantly start to have, momentum, and I'll start creating over here. That's one piece of pivot. So sometimes it's about, hey, look, I'm just hitting a wall. I need to shift my perspective. For people that focus on one project at a time, this can be very difficult. And honestly, certainly my career, but even going back to college, I would hear people talk about writer's block and like, I don't know what to write here. And it's not that I don't understand the concept, it's that I never let that get the best of me. And part of the reason why is because I would just shift my creative energies into a different thing. And if there wasn't another thing, I'd create another thing. Because our minds, right? At any given time, we have a bunch of different thoughts going on. how we manage those makes all the difference. So I'm not saying, hey, don't finish this one and jump around to 10 projects at once. But if you ever stopped by writer's block, for example, shift to another one, invest over there for a bit until you're re-inspired over here. But that wasn't what was going on here with Long Play and me. Part of it was I was working on a couple of other feature screenplays, and they were getting to a place where, hey, these things actually have opportunities. And so my agent was working on some of those opportunities, and some of those started to unfold. And as they were unfolding, I was getting a little nervous over here because with Long Play, that was a big endeavor for me because I wanted to self-publish. I wanted to do it all myself. I wanted to create a whole release strategy, kind of something that's never done before, and all these elements. A lot of them have been done, but the whole point is a lot of work from me. And yes, I have some people that help me with stuff, but it was still a lot of work. And so as I started to see these other projects develop, I started to think, look, if I lean into these, I'm going to sacrifice this. If I lean into this, I'm going to sacrifice this. But the truth is, this one's in my control as far as timing goes. The Long Play book. Sorry, I'm using left and right. These projects are not within my time control. These are engaged conversations with third parties. So I have much less flexibility on timing over here. I have a lot of flexibility on timing over here because it's ultimately up to me. Outside of setting a release date, there's no constraints. There's no contract I have to adhere to. There's no other than audience expectations and things like that, of course. But as far as like drip campaigns and release elements of the release strategy, those were 100% within my control. So what I decided is to take those and shelve them so that I could focus on something that was time sensitive and did have potentially a sell by date sort of thing. So that's part of my process. But as you think about what your creative processes are and where your energies are and why you do one thing versus another, you have to manage. So just a couple of bullet points, and I'm going to wind this down. You have to manage your time well. I'm never a fan of just jumping around projects because you can't. It's like you talk to people and they're like reading 5 novels at once. If that works for them, that has never worked for me. Like I have one novel. I've read some that, 30, 60 days. I've had others where it's taken me 2 years, but I'm not shifting onto other novels while I'm in the novel headspace. But on a project like this, you can dance around between a couple because some of it is about passion. Some of it is about where your creative energies are going and flowing. And some of it is really because there's other opportunities that are more time sensitive than this one, right? So you have to find the balance of what's time sensitive, what's important. If I work on this, but the market for this, I have like a year and a half where I could fit anywhere in that window, but this one is a 60-day window. That probably should take a priority. So I don't want to beat a dead horse. I think you get the point I'm trying to make. Not only did I make shifts and changes and pivots in my plan for Long Play, but also this is how you do it. You have to look at your priorities. You have to look at your passions. You have to look at your obligations, if they're contractual or just expectations in relationship. You have to look at deadlines, right? Deadlines are a big thing in the creative space. And most creatives aren't great at deadlines. I for myself, am always great at deadlines. Part of that's my training as a lawyer. But there are times where it's just life happens. You got too much on your plate. So managing your deadlines is also very important. But knowing that it's okay to flex, to pivot, to change, to adjust, that is one of the biggest keys of being a creative. And certainly today, that's very important. If you cannot flex and adjust and pivot today, you'll probably get burnout. You'll probably get ran over, and the world's not going to wait up for you. So my inspiration to you today is learn that it's okay. Tell yourself it's okay to pivot. It's okay to change. Don't give up. Don't use that as an excuse or an out not to finish your work. Don't use that as an excuse not to meet deadlines, but learn and teach yourself that it is okay to adjust. So go for it. I believe in you. And I'll see you back here soon.